The forgotten colony was a hive of activity, the survivors working tirelessly to rebuild their shattered lives in the aftermath of the Karok attack. The scars of the battle were still fresh, the ruins of once proud buildings standing as silent testaments to the sacrifices that had been made. But amidst the rubble and the grief, there was also a sense of hope, a feeling that the worst was behind them and that a new chapter was about to begin. Xander moved through the bustling streets, his eyes taking in the scenes of reconstruction and renewal. He saw people clearing away debris, repairing damaged structures, and planting new crops in the fields that had been scorched by the Karaga's weapons. He saw children playing in the streets, their laughter a welcome sound after the horrors of the war. But even as the colony began to heal, Xander knew that the peace was fragile. The Karag were still out there, and they would not rest until humanity was wiped from the face of the galaxy. The alliance with the friendly alien races had bought them some time, but Xander knew that it was not enough. The colony could not simply hide forever, waiting for the next attack to come. He gathered his friends and fellow soldiers in the command center, the room that had once been the nerve center of the colony's defense. They were a diverse group, men and women from all walks of life, who had been brought together by the shared experience of war. There were grizzled veterans and fresh-faced recruits, scientists and engineers, doctors and farmers. But they all shared one thing in common: a fierce determination to fight for the survival of their species. Xander stood before them, his eyes blazing with intensity as he spoke. "We have fought hard to protect what is ours," he said, his voice ringing out across the room. "We have shed blood and tears, and we have lost far too many good people along the way. But we cannot let their sacrifices be in vain. We must honor their memory by rebuilding what was lost, by showing the galaxy that humanity is still a force to be reckoned with." The survivors listened intently, their faces etched with a mix of emotions. Some looked skeptical, their eyes filled with doubt and uncertainty. Others looked hopeful, their hearts swelling with pride at the thought of taking the fight to the enemy. But they all knew that Xander was right. The only way to ensure humanity's survival was to take action, to seize control of their own destiny. "We have a plan," Xander continued, his voice growing more urgent. "A daring gambit that will require all of our skills and resources. We will retrofit a crashed Karok ship and turn it into a weapon of war. We will use their own technology against them, and we will strike at the very heart of their empire." The room erupted into a chorus of murmurs and whispers, the survivors processing the audacity of the plan. Some looked excited, their eyes gleaming with the prospect of revenge. Others looked worried, their minds racing with the potential risks and dangers. But Xander pressed on, his conviction unwavering. "I know it will not be easy," he said. "The Karok technology is advanced beyond anything we have ever seen, and the challenges we face will be immense. But I also know that we have no choice. The fate of humanity rests on our shoulders, and we cannot let it fall." The survivors nodded, their resolve hardening as they listened to Xander's words. They knew that the path ahead would be fraught with peril, that they would face challenges and setbacks at every turn. But they also knew that they had the strength and the determination to see it through. And so, with a sense of purpose and a fire in their hearts, the survivors of the forgotten colony began to plan and prepare. They gathered resources and knowledge from their alien allies, studying the Karok technology and adapting it to their own designs. They worked tirelessly, pouring their hearts and souls into the project, knowing that the fate of their species depended on their success. As the days turned into weeks, the crashed Karok ship began to take shape, its twisted wreckage transformed into a sleek and deadly vessel. The survivors added new weapon systems, advanced shields, and powerful engines, pushing the limits of what was possible with the alien technology. And when it came time to name the ship, there was only one choice. They called it the Avenging Allie in honor of the daughter of one of Xander's closest friends, a brave girl who had died in the Karok attack. The name was a symbol of their resolve, a reminder of the sacrifices that had been made and the justice that they sought. As the final preparations were made, Xander stood on the bridge of the Avenging Allie, his heart swelling with a mix of emotions. He felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, the knowledge that the lives of his crew and the fate of his species rested in his hands. But he also felt a sense of hope, a belief that they could succeed where others had failed. He looked out over the bustling shipyard, watching as the survivors loaded supplies and equipment onto the ship. He saw the determination in their eyes, the fierce pride that burned in their hearts. And he knew that, no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. For the Forgotten Colony, this was a new beginning, a chance to rise from the ashes of war and forge a new future for themselves and for all of humanity. And with the Avenging Ally as their sword and shield, they would show the galaxy that mankind was far from defeated. They would fight, and they would win, no matter the cost. The day of the launch dawned bright and clear, the sky above the Forgotten Colony a vast expanse of endless blue. The Avenging Ally stood proud and tall in the center of the shipyard, its gleaming hull reflecting the light of the rising sun. It was a sight to behold, a testament to the ingenuity and determination of the human spirit. Xander and his crew gathered around the ship, their faces etched with a mix of excitement and trepidation. They had trained for this moment, spent countless hours studying the Karok technology and honing their skills in the ship's combat simulators. But now, as they stood on the cusp of their greatest challenge, they couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and wonder. The survivors of the Forgotten Colony had come to see them off, a vast crowd of men, women, and children who had come to witness the beginning of a new era. They stood in silence, their eyes fixed on the ship that represented their last, best hope for survival. Xander stepped forward, his voice ringing out across the assembled crowd. "Today we embark on a journey that will define the future of our species," he said, his words filled with conviction and purpose. "We go not just to save ourselves, but to save all of humanity. We go to show the galaxy that we will not be broken, that we will not be forgotten." The crowd erupted into cheers, their voices rising in a defiant roar that echoed across the shipyard. They knew the risks that Xander and his crew were taking, the dangers that they would face on their mission to strike at the heart of the Karok Empire. But they also knew that there was no other choice, that the alternative was a slow and painful extinction at the hands of their enemies. As the crew began to board the ship, Xander took a moment to reflect on the path that had led them to this moment. He thought of the battles they had fought, the losses they had suffered, and the sacrifices that had been made. He thought of the brave men and women who had given their lives to protect the Forgotten Colony, and of the debt that he owed to their memory. But he also thought of the future, of the hope that burned in his heart like a flame. He knew that the road ahead would be long and treacherous, that they would face challenges and dangers beyond anything they had ever known. But he also knew that they had the strength and the determination to see it through, to forge a new path for humanity among the stars. As the last of the crew boarded the ship, Xander took one final look at the Forgotten Colony, at the place that had been his home for so long. He felt a pang of sadness, knowing that he might never see it again. But he also felt a sense of pride, a knowledge that he was leaving behind a legacy that would endure long after he was gone. With a final nod to the assembled crowd, Xander stepped aboard the Avenging Ally, the airlock ceiling shut behind him with a hiss of pressurized air. He made his way to the bridge, his footsteps echoing in the corridors of the ship that would be his home for the foreseeable future. The bridge was a hive of activity, the crew already at their stations and preparing for launch. Xander took his seat in the captain's chair, his hands resting on the controls that would guide the ship through the vastness of space. "All systems online," his pilot reported, her voice steady and confident. "Engines primed and ready. Coordinates for the Karo homeworld are locked in." Xander took a deep breath, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and nerves. This was the moment he had been waiting for, the moment when he would lead his crew on a mission that would change the course of human history. "Engage engines," he said, his voice barely more than a whisper. With a roar that shook the very foundations of the shipyard, the Avenging Ally lifted off from the surface of the Forgotten Colony, its engines flaring with the brilliant blue of Cherenkov radiation. The ship rose higher and higher, piercing the clouds and soaring into the vast expanse of space. From the surface of the planet, the survivors watched in awe as the ship disappeared from view, a blazing comet streaking across the sky. They knew that Xander and his crew were embarking on a journey that would take them far beyond the reach of their world, a journey that would test their courage and their resolve like never before. But they also knew that they were not alone, that the hopes and dreams of an entire species rode with them on their mission. The forgotten colony would endure in their absence, a beacon of hope in a galaxy that had once seemed so dark and hostile. As the Avenging Ally hurtled through the void, Xander and his crew settled into their new routine, their minds focused on the challenges that lay ahead. They knew that the journey to the Karok homeworld would be long and perilous, that they would face danger and uncertainty at every turn. But they also knew that they had each other, a bond forged in the crucible of war and tempered by the unbreakable spirit of human resilience. Together they would face whatever the galaxy could throw at them, united in their determination to strike a blow against the enemies of humanity and forge a new future among the stars. And so, with the forgotten colony receding behind them and the vast expanse of space stretching out before them, the crew of the Avenging Ally set out on their mission, their hearts filled with hope and their eyes fixed on the horizon. The journey had begun, and the fate of an entire species hung in the balance. The Avenging Ally hurtled through the void of space, a gleaming arrow of human defiance in the face of an implacable foe. For weeks, the ship had been on a relentless journey, its crew pushing themselves to the brink of exhaustion as they navigated the treacherous currents of uncharted space. They had faced challenges at every turn, from the deadly gravitational fields of collapsing stars to the swarming attacks of Karok fighter squadrons. But through it all, they had persevered, their determination and skill seeing them through even the darkest moments. Now, as the Karok homeworld loomed before them, a sense of grim anticipation settled over the crew. They knew that this was the moment they had been waiting for, the chance to strike a blow against the heart of the enemy's power. Xander stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the view screen as the planet grew larger and larger. It was a world of towering cities and sprawling industrial complexes, its surface bristling with the deadly weaponry of a species that had made war its only purpose. Around him, the crew worked with a focused intensity, their hands flying over the ship's controls as they prepared for the battle to come. They had trained for this moment, spent countless hours studying the Kara's defenses and honing their own tactics in response. But even so, Xander knew that the odds were stacked against them. The Karok homeworld was a fortress, protected by a vast network of orbital defenses and a fleet of warships that could annihilate entire star systems. To attack it directly was to court almost certain destruction. And yet, as he looked around at the faces of his crew, Xander saw only determination and resolve. These were men and women who had already sacrificed so much, who had seen their homes and loved ones destroyed by the relentless advance of the Karok. They knew that this was their only chance to strike back, to show the enemy that humanity would not go quietly into the night. "This is it," Xander said, his voice ringing out across the bridge. "This is the moment we've been waiting for. The Karok think they can destroy us, that they can wipe humanity from the face of the galaxy. But they're wrong. We're going to show them that we're stronger than they ever imagined, that we'll fight to our last breath to protect what's ours." A cheer went up from the crew, their voices joining together in a defiant roar. They knew that the battle ahead would be the greatest challenge they had ever faced, but they were ready to meet it head-on. As the Avenging Ally plunged into the Karok's defenses, the ship's weapons blazing with the fury of a species fighting for its very survival, Xander felt a sense of pride and determination swell within him. This was what he had been born for, the chance to lead his people to victory against the greatest threat they had ever known. The battle was joined, the Avenging Ally weaving and dodging through a maelstrom of enemy fire as it struck at the heart of the Karok's power. The ship's advanced shields held firm against the onslaught, even as the hull shuddered and groaned under the strain. Xander and his crew fought with a savage intensity, their weapons finding their marks with unerring precision. They targeted the Karok's command centers and power generators, striking at the critical infrastructure that kept the planet's defenses operational. Hour after hour, the battle raged on, the skies above the Karok homeworld lit by the flashes of exploding ships and the searing beams of energy weapons. The Avenging Ally took hit after hit, its shields straining under the onslaught, but still it fought on, its crew refusing to yield. And then, at last, the Karok's defenses began to crumble. The Avenging Ally broke through the last line of resistance, its weapons locked on the planet's surface. With a final salvo of missiles, The crew struck at the heart of the Kara war machine, their weapons tearing through the planet's crust and igniting the volatile minerals beneath. The Kara homeworld shuddered and convulsed, its cities collapsing and its factories exploding in a chain reaction of destruction. The enemy fleet, caught in the blast, was annihilated in an instant, their ships reduced to clouds of debris and ash. And through it all, the Avenging Ally flew on, its crew battered and bloodied but unbroken. They had struck a blow against the enemy that would be felt throughout the galaxy, a blow that would show the Kara and all the other hostile races that humanity was far from defeated. As the ship turned towards home, Xander felt a sense of relief and triumph wash over him. They had done it, struck a blow against the heart of the enemy's power that would be remembered for generations to come. But even as they celebrated their victory, Xander knew that their mission was far from over. There were still battles to be fought, worlds to be saved, and a future to be won. The Karog would not rest until humanity was wiped from the face of the galaxy, and it would take all of their strength and determination to stop them. But as he looked around at the faces of his crew, Xander knew that they were ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. They had proven themselves in the crucible of battle, had shown that the human spirit was an indomitable force that could not be broken. And so, with hope in their hearts and fire in their eyes, the crew of the Avenging Ally set out on a new journey, ready to face whatever the future might bring. They were the vanguard of a new human empire, the spark that would reignite the flames of human civilization across the stars. The forgotten colony had been avenged, but the war for humanity's survival had only just begun. And Xander and his crew would be there every step of the way, fighting with every ounce of their strength to ensure that the light of human progress would never be extinguished. As the Avenging Ally disappeared into the vast expanse of space, a new chapter in the story of humanity began to unfold. It was a story of courage and sacrifice, of hope and determination in the face of overwhelming odds. And it was a story that would be told for generations to come, a testament to the unbreakable spirit of a species that refused to be broken. Thanks for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to check out the rest of the series if you did. Please be sure to leave a like on your way out. Subscribe too if you'd like to see more stories like this.